right, we live here or what? We got a little loose on the Facebook connection or the internet connection here, but we're doing something new here. Some of you guys might not know who I am. My name is Eric. I'm the newest employee here at Rent Prep, and we got Steve here, who's been here, what, 10 years now?
10 years.
10 years. So it's kind of a neat dynamic, though. Kind of what we're doing with the Facebook Live here, as you can see in the question, is how to handle minor tenant issues. I've been a landlord for 7 years. I own a double. It's upper lower in Buffalo, New York. And to be honest, haven't really been the best landlord over the years. Just a lack of education, I guess, and kind of putting stuff to use. So I'm kind of relying on Steve to help me out with just minor issues and things that kind of pop up and how to actually handle them in the right way. So what I had this weekend is actually Sunday after a big Bills win. I'm a big Bills fan. Went over to my tenant's house and I mowed the lawn, and there was probably about like 40, 50 cigarette butts in the back lawn. And I'm seeing it, and I'm kind of one of those people who likes to avoid conflict at all costs. So I don't want to say anything, but I'm like, nah, I need to say something to my tenant. But I'm pretty sure I know who it is, but I have 3 tenants in that apartment downstairs, 3 guys. And I'm just kind of wondering to ask Steve, like, what's the proper way to handle it? Because, like, part of me, like, the one that doesn't like conflict just wants to shoot a text across and be like, hey, can you take care of this for,
Right.
look out. But I want it to actually be done legit and actually be a legit landlord, a professional landlord. So,
Right. Well, I tell you, a big mistake that a lot of landlords I find make is they want to take the easy route of texting or emailing, which comes across sometimes as super passive aggressive. And it's easy to misunderstand or miscommunicate the intentions behind it. So, especially knowing that you have the type of relationships with these tenants where you've screened them yourself, you see them when you mow the lawn, you have a pretty physical presence there at the property. I think it would be a huge mistake to send this message via text.
yeah.
So the first thing to remember first and foremost would be everything you do as a landlord should be documented, not only by journaling or your own documentation, but documenting by addendum or by form, whatever you're trying to communicate with them. So knowing you, Eric, I know that you probably keep a spreadsheet or some sort of a running list of every communication that you make with them. So first and foremost, you want to make sure that you've got your documentation in order. Second, you want to make sure that you're giving them proper notice for whatever your intentions are. In this case, I would think that this is going to be something you're adding to a smoking addendum. So do you currently have a smoking addendum for that unit?
No, I don't.
Do you have an open no smoking policy there? Are they aware of?
No, I believe I knew he was. See, this is where I can kind of get into trouble, where I know that I'm not a professional landlord, but I'd have to go over the lease again.
Okay.
I was aware that he was a smoker before he came in. He's a good guy. I don't have a problem with him smoking outside.
Yep.
That's like a good sign. I'd rather see cigarette butts in the lawn than
Right.
cigarettes inside.
Right.
But that's something I'm gonna have to kind of set up and just make sure that we're in clear communication with, I think.
Sure. How do you feel about him smoking in the apartment? Do you think that you would not want to have him smoking in there?
He should know that. I'd have to again go back through the lease, but
Okay.
I believe there's no smoking in the apartment.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
that is in there, I believe.
Okay. So my best advice in this situation would be to take the approach that you appreciate him following the letter of the lease if it says that there's no smoking in the apartment. So clearly he's not smoking in the apartment if he's throwing all of his buds in the lawn. And as a landlord, sometimes we gotta take a little or accept a little responsibility as well. So if you haven't provided him a receptacle to put out there, or if you've never made it explicitly clear what you would like him to do, then I would take that as an opportunity to sort of break the ice and say, hey, listen, Joe tenant, I appreciate you smoking outside. I realize, and then that gives me some comfort knowing that you're not doing it up there. And I realize I never really thought it through to give you something to throw the buds into.
Yeah.
I brought over this coffee can. I think this would be perfect. It's reusable. You can dump it out when you're done. Gives you something to aim for. I just noticed when I was mowing the lawn that there was a bunch of them scattered all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I would take that approach and take the approach that you want to make sure you're doing a good job as a landlord, and of course you're going to follow it up with an addendum. So I would say and I've got this addendum here. Doesn't say that you did anything wrong. It just actually it's me putting in there that I'm giving you something, a receptacle or something, somewhere to put the buds from this point on.
Okay.
So it's taking a little bit of the responsibility on yourself to say, hey, I didn't, I've never ran into this situation, and it never hurts to just be honest with them and say, listen, I'm doing this as I go. I'm trying to be the best landlord that I can be. I know that there's a lot of conflict between landlords and tenants. I don't want that between us. We've always had a good relationship, but also at the same time, you don't want to leave that professional realm that you might have with them. You want to stay professional. You want to make sure that this is not a friend-to-friend type of relationship. That's where a lot of landlords sometimes struggle, because then it becomes hard to tell them, sometimes when you have to reinforce the rules.
Yeah, that was kind of a little bit more of a difficult spot for me, because I used to live in the lower unit and have tenants who would live upstairs, and at different times I had different tenants living with me, and I kind of went with that approach of like, oh, I'm going to try to be the friendly landlord because I don't want an uncomfortable living environment, but I think that can actually lead to a more uncomfortable relationship with the tenant-landlord relationship. So
100%, and we see it all the time here at RemPrep too, where these landlords most of the time are getting into situations because they don't like that confrontation. They don't like being the person that, the Debbie Downer that's telling them no at every turn, or hitting them with addendums all the time. But I think that's why, there's definitely some value in just that honest approach of saying, listen, I want to be a good landlord. I want to make sure I'm doing this. This is a learning process for me too. So I think it does a couple of things. I think it establishes you as just a genuinely concerned person that's trying to do the right thing, and I think that it also lets them know that you take it serious and you do have your stuff together. You've got addendums for things, you're documenting, you're keeping track of stuff, and I think that in the cases where things could go wrong, that's going to be in the back of a tenant's mind as well, knowing this guy's got his stuff together, he knows what he's doing. He's probably got a procedure in place for every situation that I might come across. Clearly he's on top of things if he comes out here with an addendum for these smoking butts. But I think that it's really important to do this in person, primarily because that's how you typically, you're like I said, a physical presence there at the property. If you were out of town, or you typically communicated by phone or text or something like that, I think it'd be okay. But any time where it's potentially confrontational, I think it's best to do it either in person or at least by phone. Text and email, the message can tend to be lost.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll probably go with the phone call, knowing me. But yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate it. Maybe I'll follow up here on Facebook, kind of how that goes. And if you have any questions or comments, maybe on some situations that you've dealt with as a landlord, questions you have, or just anything you want to share below, you can share that for us. And if you don't already like the page here, we're going to be doing more content like this, Facebook Live videos, and kind of just getting more video content to get you familiar with Steve here, and me kind of picking his brain as things kind of come up. And educated landlord, that's where you kind of get yourself out of trouble. So I'm going to do a better job with that too. So thanks for tuning in. And like I said, like the page and comment below with any comments or questions you may have. All right, take care, guys.